Good afternoon, my name is Olga Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to see everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. It's day 608 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor, and now we will be talking about the situation in Kharkiv region. Joining us online is Deputy Military Governor of Kharkiv region, Yevgen Ivanov. Good afternoon, Mr. Yevgen. Good afternoon. Mr. Yevgen, I would like to start our conversation with asking you about the latest shellings inflicted by the Russians. So what has happened? What is the aftermath? What is the scale of damage? And what can we say about the situation for the time being? Is it calm in the region or the shelling is going on? Well, talking about the situation is not quite at all. About 15 settlements were shelled within the last day. Specifically, Borova was shelled very intensely. 4 private buildings were damaged. 3 persons were injured. 1 man is in heavy condition in the hospital. Vovchansk community in the north of our region was shelled quite intensely too. Around Ivanivka of Kupiansk district, our troops repelled the enemy attacks. The enemy 5 enemy attacks. The enemy continues the attempts of assaulting the positions of our troops and had to withdraw with losses. What is the situation in the settlements? I mean the humanitarian situation in those settlements along the border with the aggressor. Are there civilians still left there, or you were able to convince them to get evacuated in the depth of the region? Well, I have to remind you, yes, that in the communities such as Vovchansk and Kupiansk community, the evacuation is underway. There are still people remaining there. They are being supplied with all the necessary humanitarian aid, hygienic products, meals, but the evacuation is going on, and we emphasize the importance of such evacuation for the families, specifically families with children from such communities as Kupiansk community. This morning we've seen the statement by the General Staff of Ukraine that the Kupiansk district is where the enemy tries to advance to capture the key node. We understand this territory will be attacked by the enemy further on and will end up under constant shell. And are you already intending to impose the mandatory evacuation from those places? It's already underway. I think from the 23rd of September, more than 120,000 people were evacuated from our communities along the border with the aggressor. And we continue talking to the people to make it happen, because not all of the citizens out of those who are remaining, who have already lived there 1 year upon the occupation, they just don't want to leave by default, because we need to continue convincing them and taking all the relevant measures. Mr. Yevgen, talking about the critical infrastructure in the region, is it still in operation? How have you been able to launch all of the systems? We understand that there are problems with them, specifically in those districts that are under shelling. And have you managed to launch the heating season in the region? Regardless of all the difficulties, 27% of the boiler rooms were launched in Kharkiv region, 146 boiler rooms, including 57 in Kharkiv region, and the city, 146 altogether. So almost 1/3, 27%, almost 1/3 of all the boiling rooms are already commissioned. 51 healthcare facility is connected to heat supply. More than 600 apartment blocks got reconnected. The process is going on and it's happening according to the schedule. Talking about the dynamics of the movement of population, Are the people coming back to Kharkiv and Kharkiv region, or is it the opposite tendency that you observe? Yes, the people are coming back, taking the general tendency. The population of the region is about 2.5 million persons, including 1.4 in the city of Kharkiv itself, but I have to emphasize that we have about 520,000 internally displaced persons. But in such communities as Kupiansk and Vovchansk community, Veliki Borluk, Kazachya Lopan, I mean those along the front lines and along the border, people are definitely not coming back to those areas. And talking about the businesses, have they come back, and generally what's going on with the economy of the region? Are the jobs sufficient, and relatively or respectively the taxes collected in the region? In the beginning of the invasion, 80% of the businesses were either destroyed, relocated to other regions, or just suspended, and about 20% of them have come back and resumed full operations in the region. Since the beginning of the year, more than 8,000 private entrepreneurs started working. We understand that they are mostly involved in the services area. They service this amount of population, as I mentioned, 1.4 million of people. The work is underway in coordination with the state banks and Ministry of Economy and the Employment Center to create specific conditions for our region that would enable our businesses to come back more actively. Also, there was the Lending System Adapted 579. Our fixed rate is 1% under this program. Also, the tax situation is also discussed in the region. Those businesses who end up in the areas of the active battle operations, they have certain exemptions, I mean tax exemptions imposed for them. There are also grants issued on a constant basis to support our businesses, and we continue growing those capabilities. You've mentioned 579 program, and talking about that, I would like to ask you about the agrarian season for Kharkiv region. How did it pass? There was a lot of discussions around that. Many were saying that in Kharkiv region there was a lot of mined territories and the farmers would hardly make it. So what are the results? Well, we've made it. However, still we have about 600,000 hectares of mined lands, and the demining process has only just started. Relevant maps were created to understand the priority of the mining of farming lands. This is the biggest problem for our farmers. Also, the logistic is disrupted. The logistics ways were destroyed, which results in high prices at low intrinsic cost of the product. So talking about these agrarian products, 500,000 tons that we've harvested covers the needs of the region in full, and it allows us exporting the agricultural products either abroad or to other regions of Ukraine. But again, it will result in no revenue to our agricultural manufacturers because it's all spent at cost of logistics. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Do you have any questions on the floor? Good afternoon, Valentina Renkel, Ukrinform. After the strike on Nova Poshta department, Nova Poshta stated that they will equip new bomb shelters in their terminals. Is the regional government going to get involved in this process? Well, the regional government takes active part in all of those processes, but the property of Nova Poshta is definitely a private property, and ensuring decent conditions for their employees is their obligation. This is why they did it before, and they will continue doing it under the control of relevant government authorities who are supposed to control this process. Mr. Yevgen, then the last question I would like to ask you as to the reconstruction. Has this process started in the region? We understand there was a lot of damage of critical infrastructure, there was a lot of damage of residential areas. So to what extent have you managed to launch those processes, and what are the results for the time being? Yeah, we're gaining momentum in e-відновлення, the e-reconstruction. About 30% of residential buildings were damaged or completely destroyed. We have 20,385 applications for the repair of damaged or destroyed property, and people have already received the funds in amount of about $500 million hryvnias. This figure is changing day to day. The commissions continue working in the city of Kharkiv and regional communities 24/7. And talking about the completely destroyed property, we have 1,942 applications registered in the region, specifically in 6 territorial communities that were affected the most. And the territorial commissions created 65 certificates for compensation of completely destroyed property in total amount of about 100 million hryvnias. Mr. Yevgen, thank you very much for finding time to join our broadcast. Dear colleagues, I'm reminding you, joining us was the Deputy Military Governor of Kharkiv region, Mr. Yevgen Ivanov. Our team is working on building the schedule for tomorrow. Stay tuned and let's continue working for our victory. Glory to Ukraine.